So what I want to do in this video is take you along for my process on how I would do my ground effects. Now there's a couple different ways you could do this. I'm going to do the kind of cheap, fast way. I'm not going to pull my side moldings off. I want to attempt to leave them. I typically don't like to do this, but if your moldings are pretty straight, and this car is pretty straight, your tape line should be pretty easy to match up. So I'll be taking you through the whole process of this, and I'll show you exactly what we're doing here. So anyway, we're going to be working on that right now. We got Seth in the house. So we just took the Calypso down the road. So what'd you think?
It rolls out first off, and it is so smooth for a blow-through setup. Like, it feels just like my fuel-injected car. Like, it don't act like what everyone's normal thoughts of carburation is like, oh man, it won't crank up in the morning. Like, it's just smooth. When he floored it, gets into boost all the way. It doesn't fall, hiccup, sputter. It just feels like a fuel-injected vehicle.
All right, so back to this car. Tonight we're gonna get this thing on jack stands, and I'm gonna take the wheels off of it, and we're gonna go ahead and prep this thing. So I'll get back to you guys once we get this done, and I'll show you how I go about taping off one of these cars, getting ready for two-tone paint. What we're gonna do here is we're gonna start out with some 3M, we call it fine line tape. I don't really know what it's called, but what we're gonna do is come in and run a tape line. I'm just gonna start here because on the curved areas, you really do need a very thin, flexible tape. The rest of the sides of the car, you can just use regular masking tape, that's fine. But for this, we need to get a baseline down without this thing wrinkling up on us. So obviously where you do your two-tone is right on the top of the ground effects, and then this line all the way around, and you just follow that down. So if you're painting the bottom, always tape to the top. So you want to go just to the top side of your ground effects right here. You just kind of come in, follow this line. All right, I'm gonna do a little better job than this, but what I wanna do is show you guys how this works. That's not perfectly even, but we'll pull that off in a second. Okay, so how this will work is, let's say you're gonna use paper or whatever the case may be. You get your paper. Now you get your regular tape. So there's a couple different ways you can do this. One of the best ways to tape paper, if you wanna do it this way, is to lay it on the windshield of the car or either the back glass and tape it out, or you can do it right here as a matter of fact. It really doesn't matter. This is kind of the way I like to do it. Now, you can use plastic, you can drape it over the whole car, and you can cut it out. But either way, you need to come back in with some more tape. So what I like to do here is, now that you have this line in, doesn't really matter where you put this. As long as you're on that blue tape, you're good to go, right? So you come around here like this, okay? So now you're good to go. You got your blue tape down here, and then you're just gonna come on top of it with your regular masking tape, and you don't have to be precise there because it doesn't matter. So now what you can do, you can choose to do this any way you want to. You don't have to do it this way. But now what you can do is you can come in like this and just tape it anywhere along that yellow masking tape that you just put down, and you go around the whole car like that. Obviously you would want to tape the whole car off. You could use plastic and drape over it and then just trim it out right here. But that's essentially how we're going to tape this car up. I may get you guys a little bit of footage of that, but I just wanted to let you know the process of how that goes. Now, like I said, once you get out here on the sides of the car, you can just use regular masking tape. That's no problem. Just pull you off a section of it if you like. Now, when you do this, the important part is to remember to tape to the top of your ground effects, not try to make it even, okay? Like this ground effect here, this spat is actually a little low. You can't worry about that. You have to only paint the ground effect. Don't try to paint the body of the car. In other words, since this isn't even, you would essentially, you would run your tape something like that, right? To make this line even across here. But that's not what you do. You have to tape it according to your ground effects, because these ground effects can be moved. So if you wanted to come back later on, you literally could just come in here, shift up your ground effects, and you could essentially move your line, right? Your silver line or whatever color you're painting here, you can move it. So you would hate to go up there and do that. Plus, it's just not gonna look right. All right, so as you can see right here, on a straight line, super easy, run your tape line, put your paper up here or your plastic or whatever the case may be. I will show you guys the plastic that I use because I've had some people ask if I can find it. You can buy this from your local paint store, Auto Paint and Body. Actually, I think you can buy stuff like this from Lowe's, Bisqueen. People call it all kinds of different stuff. I'm not gonna cut this whole thing out. Actually, I guess we could, but I'm not gonna do that right now. So here's how this would work. Cut you some plastic off. Okay. And then you would just come down here. You can always just tear you off a couple pieces of tape like this just to have handy. All right. And just get it kind of close. And as long as you're touching the plastic and this tape right here, you're good to go. So just pull it down, give yourself a little bit of room. Once you get that kind of set like that, just come in with your tape. Do it like that. All right, so there you go. Now you've got a nice crisp tape line right here, and your car is covered in plastic. So that's how you would do this. It's very simple to do. Obviously, all this is coming back off. This was just to show you guys, but that's how we're gonna take this car off, because I probably won't have time to show you every little thing when it comes to that. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and finish this up, and we'll probably get it taped out tonight, and then I'll start scuffing on it and shoot some paint and some clear on it tomorrow. Guys, this is super easy to do. Trust me, this is. If you have any painting skills whatsoever, and you've ever painted anything, this is actually pretty easy. All right, we'll catch you guys later. All right, so if you're wondering what it is that I'm doing here, I want an extra layer of protection down here right above where I'm gonna be spraying. And this just helps to minimize any overspray, or like I'm gonna be using plastic over the car. And the plastic is like really easy to rip. So if you run something like this in as a backer right here, then you're good to go. You have no issues. So I'm just coming in, taping it up here, and then I'm just gonna run a tape line back across here, and we should be good to go on that. So that's why I'm doing it the way that I'm doing it, if you're wondering. But with all that being said, I'm gonna finish this up, go around the edges like this of the car, and then we'll drape the plastic over it, tape it once again, and then cut it out. We'll be good to go. So we've got everything taped up pretty much the way that I want it. I went a little overboard on this, so I don't want you guys to think that you have to do it this way. You could have literally just ran that one tape line across and then draped your plastic down, but I do recommend that you use some paper across the bottom or at the top, because we're gonna be scuffing this car and we wanna make sure that we don't tear into the plastic or anything like that. So to be completely honest with you, the best way to do this is to go ahead and scuff the car with the paper on, just like this. That way, if you do get up there and rub on something, you're not gonna tear the plastic, because that plastic literally takes, I mean, no stress whatsoever for it to go ahead and tear. So probably what I'll do from here is go ahead and scuff the bottom of the car up real good. And then once we get it scuffed, we'll drape our plastic and we'll go ahead and start paint. Before we get started, we need to talk about grits. You're gonna need a really high grit, a fine grit for this, because this is basically a really high metallic pearl silver. Yes, it's a little darker than just a bright silver, but trust me on this. Guys, you always wanna finish out really fine when it comes to silvers or anything with a lot of pearl in it. So this is, I think, 400 grit, but it's worn out. So it's probably closer to about 600 grit or something like that. And these are these little 3M foam pads, perfect for doing stuff like this. So I'll just go ahead and show you guys right here on this corner. All we're gonna do is come in and just scuff, 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 okay? We're gonna get everything sanded real good on this car. You could use a DA if you wanted to with like 600 grit and get like the big flat areas. That's completely up to you. It's gonna take a little bit of time to do this. I mean, you're gonna have probably an hour to hour and a half and really just getting all the edges and corners. I mean, you're gonna have to come in here. You have to get everything sanded, okay? So make sure you get all of your corners and everything sanded. In these little cracks and crevices as well, just stick your pad in there, do whatever you gotta do, and get all of your little corners and everything else scuffed up. I'm not gonna get too detailed into this because this video is gonna be too long, guys. 400 grit is really too coarse for silver. 500 is fine, 600 is fine. I wouldn't go any higher than 600 grit though, because what happens is you start to lose your bite. So now your base coat's not really gonna have a lot of bite into what's already here. So if this thing gets, you know, hit like that, it very well could chip the paint. So go as coarse as you can. A used 400 is usually fine. 500 is almost perfect. So, all right, let me go ahead and finish this up and then we'll get to the paint. I think I would be doing you guys a disservice if I didn't really kind of talk about what exactly we're going to be using here and how it's used. Everybody's familiar with the red Scotch-Brite. Typically that's fine to scuff your ground effects with, especially in the cracks and crevices and like up through here and all of your corners. I wouldn't really recommend you do the whole car or ground effects with this, and the reason why is it's just very inconsistent. If, you know, I don't know if you guys have ever paid attention, but if you're trying to scuff a car with this, yes, it works really good in small spaces, but the whole entire bottom of the car is just not going to work for this because it's just too open. You guys see that? It's very open and it doesn't give you a uniform scuff. There again, I mean, you can use it. You're just going to have to go over it many, many times. All right, so with that being said, this is your more coarse. For anything like black, red, green, you know, medium colors like that, the dark colors, you can usually get away with this. And you can start out with this regardless, but for a silver car or something like that, I'm gonna switch over to this as my final scuff. I'm gonna use this in all of my corners, edges on the back sides, edges on the top side, all up through here, down in the letters. And I probably will scuff over the whole car, and here's why. I'll probably take the red because remember we can start with the red, but we need to finish with something else. On the back of this car back here, because I forgot to wash it, we have some this is basically burnt rubber is what this is. So here's a good option for getting that stuff off. Take your Scotch-Brite and your Scotch-Brite will take that off for you so you don't mess up your sandpaper. See, now we're good. Everything's stuck to this. It's just a good way of getting all the hard stuff off first. And there you go, okay? Same thing on the other side of the car. Come over here and we have a lot over here, right? And you do not want to put sandpaper on this because it's just not gonna, it's gonna gum your sandpaper up. So once again, take your red Scotch-Brite, hit it, and every bit of that will come off relatively easy. Okay, like that. There again, start with this, finish with your gray Scotch-Brite, but I still recommend where you can use this on the flat areas, use something like this right here, or you can obviously always use sandpaper on a DA is fine on your flat areas, but I'm probably not going to do that. All right, so that's enough talking. I know you guys don't really care about all that, but I don't want to leave any details out that's going to mess anybody up. I really want to try to help you understand what it is in the process that you got to go through to make something like this happen. So I hope all this extra talking helps because I am sick of hearing myself talk. Let's get busy.